Steam Deck. So, the Steam Deck. This thing is probably one of the most useful consoles, I guess, that I've ever had. It's not really a console. With the way that I use the Steam Deck, it kind of just acts as, like, well, 50 different consoles in one. But, it is useful. Let's go over it. So, first off, what is this thing? Now, many of you may not know what a Steam Deck is. Basically, Steam, Valve, the guys that made Half-Life 2 and Aperture Hand Lab, those guys made this thing, known as the Steam Deck. It is a portable gaming PC, and it's decently powerful for the size that it is. It is like a controller. It's a bit like a Switch Wii U gamepad thing. So, yeah. I don't know, let's just get into what I use it for. So in terms of its usefulness, the Steam Deck itself is one of the more useful things that I own, primarily because it's a computer. If I open this thing up, it's going to have a whole ton of emulators, because I like to use emulators. But yeah, emulators are incredibly useful. Why? Because on the Steam Deck, well, as you can probably tell, this isn't connected to anything. There's no strings or wires. This is a portable handheld console. But because it's like a gaming PC in a portable format, that means I can play any of these games portably. Double Dash, Mario Kart Wii, Minecraft, any Wii U games with Cemu. I've got Portal, Portal 2, Terraria. All of these, I can play Hoi 4. Hoi 4 doesn't run well, but I can. All of these games, any game you can get on Steam, and most games just in general, I can play them portably using this. This is actually one of the only ways you can play Minecraft Java Edition portably, instead of having to play the objectively worse Bedrock Edition. So there's that as an upside. But the thing is that it's got another side. This is the gaming mode currently that the Steam Deck is in. But yeah, you can go to what is known as desktop mode. This here is desktop mode. As you can probably tell, this looks very similar to a computer. And that's because it is. As I said, this is a portable gaming PC. And I genuinely mean that in every way possible. This is a PC because this is a fully functioning custom Linux distro that Valve has built for the Steam Deck called SteamOS. And it is actually quite good. SteamOS has all the features you'd expect of something like Windows or of Mac, but it's on Linux, so you've got full freedom to pretty much do whatever you want with it. And additionally, compared to other Linux distros, it's a lot easier to use than them and to figure out what you're doing with it. So for anyone who's a beginner with Linux, this is really good. Now, there's the obvious downsides with the fact that, well, it's Linux, and Linux isn't known to be overly compatible with everything. For example, you cannot play Fortnite on this. Now, I don't know what type of person would want to play Fortnite in modern day, but if you, for whatever reason, do want to, you can't, because the Epic Games Launcher doesn't like this thing, because the CEO of Epic Games doesn't like Steam for some reason. Additionally, if you want to play something like Roblox, that's going to be a bit more annoying. It's possible using, like, this thing, and there's a couple other ways to do it, but it is a bit more annoying. You can't just install the Roblox launcher, and again, this is just because of non-compatibility. And to anyone who's ever used Paint.net before, yeah, I've tried it. It doesn't work. Paint.net doesn't work on the Steam Deck, which is really sad because it's a really good program. Actually, there's quite a few programs that won't work on the Steam Deck purely because it's Linux-based, which is the one main downside of this thing. It's a Linux-based thing. Though if you want, you can dual boot this thing. Yeah. the Steam Deck right here has an SD card slot. So you can put an SD card into this thing and dual boot into Windows and have a fully functioning Windows distro on your Steam Deck that is running on Linux, which is just so useful. Now, for me personally, well, I've never dual booted anything, and I've never dual booted on the Steam Deck before. However, I do have a friend who also has a Steam Deck who's dual booted onto his one. And yes, it does work. And if you dual boot into Windows, well, that's Windows fully functioning on the Steam Deck, and it is possible. Valve has made it possible to use all the Steam Deck controls, all of this and whatever, and the two trackpads it has and all. You can use all that on the Windows distro and it'll act like an actual mouse and keyboard. And obviously, Windows is supported a lot more than Linux is, so if you get a Windows distro on this thing, well, you can literally do anything on it. And speaking of anything, what about those emulators? Well, let me show you why I really, really love this thing. This is the real reason I adore this thing. Every single console you could think of, you can get on this thing. And I know there's a couple emulators I might be missing from here, but guess what? I can get those too. I've just not been bothered to because there's no games that I want for them. I've got Xbox 360, 3DS, N64, DS, NES, Game Boy Advance, GameCube, SNES, so many things. I have Switch games on this thing, which, for any legal reasons, yes, I did obtain these completely legally. These are my own dumped ROMs. However, that's still cool. And really the only reason I've got those on there is for novelty's sake. I don't ever use them, I don't ever play them. I don't care to play Switch games on a Steam Deck, I'd rather play them on an actual Switch. It's far more useful that way. However, this is just for novelty's sake, and because I can say I've got every Mario Kart on this thing, as to which I have every Mario Kart on this thing. I think out of all consoles, the one that I'm most impressed with is how the Wii works on the Steam Deck. And it's because of the trackpads, oddly enough. Let me show you something. This is Super Mario Galaxy running on the Steam Deck. Now you might think, well, that's not too impressive. I mean, it's just a 3D Mario game. Yeah, it's on a Steam Deck. It's portable. That's nice, and I'll give you that. But it's not overly impressive. You get Mario 64 on this thing. Well, this is the impressive part here. I open up the game. You need a Wii pointer. Now, I can use the touchscreen on this thing, but in real gameplay, you don't want to be switching from this to having to do this. You can use the trackpad. This is genuinely, this here is one of the most incredibly useful things I have found for the trackpad here. And there's a lot of useful things the trackpad has got on the Steam Deck. And that's one of the things I also love about this thing so much. It's these little details. The fact that Steam and Valve thought about adding a trackpad into this thing. Something that usually on something like a laptop isn't that useful and is honestly usually a bit of a downgrade from like a mouse. However, here, it works so well, especially for something like an emulated game. And it moves so smoothly as well. It just works so amazingly. And again, you've got full touchscreen capabilities with this thing as well. This is a fully capable touchscreen, which is just so useful. I mean, there is almost no complaints I have about the Steam Deck, genuinely. The battery life on this thing, by the way, also amazing. This thing has a really good battery life. It lasts for a while. It takes a little bit of time to charge, but at the same time, with everything else that this has going for it, it's barely a downside. And it doesn't take that long to charge, to be honest. You know, you can give it an overnight charge and you'll be from full battery in the morning. However, there is one downside to the Steam Deck. And that's its price point. The Steam Deck is definitely a bit more on the pricier side. This model, for example, which is the Steam Deck OLED model, and it's got 512 gigabytes of storage, This cost me 480 Great British Pounds, or I think in the US $500, but I might have to recorrect that later on in the video. However, yeah, it's a bit pricey. That is pretty much the only downside with this though. The price is on the more expensive side, but do keep in mind, that's for the 512GB OLED model. Now, I know there's the terabyte OLED model, which I believe is 540-ish, maybe 570. It's quite a bit more expensive than this one, but there's also an LCD model. Now, obviously, the panel isn't OLED, it's LCD, but still, all the functionality and capabilities of a normal Steam Deck, just the screen looks slightly worse. And to be honest, even then, the screen's still alright. Now, it does have a bit less storage, but if you're doing like what I'm doing and you're pretty much only using this thing for portable Mario Kart Wii and the likes, you don't need that much storage. Nintendo and older games in general, not even just Nintendo, they generally aren't too large of files, so you don't need to worry about that too much. And again, you have an SD card slot which you can use for more storage. So if you ever do need extra storage on this, it does have the ability to hold more. And that LCD model comes in brand new 350 Great British Pounds. Again, in pounds, and again, I'm not 100% sure what it is in dollars, but it's a lot cheaper than the near 500 that this one is. One thing I will say about this, though, is this works, as I've already said, very well as just a PC and just for playing any games you want. What that does mean is if you want to get a gaming PC, specifically a budget gaming PC, genuinely just take a look at this. Consider it at the very least. With its price point and its capabilities and its power and the fact that it's also portable, the Steam Deck genuinely isn't that bad to be used as a gaming PC. How would I know this? Because I have used it. There was a point last year where my current PC completely broke. I had to get it fixed, and it took a little while for them to be able to fix it. So during that time, I didn't have my normal PC. What I did have though was this, and you can get a dock for this thing to connect it to a monitor. Now, obviously, it wasn't as good as my full PC, but it wasn't that much worse of an experience either. This thing works phenomenally well as just a normal gaming PC. So if you want a gaming PC and you don't want to spend too much money on one, I'd consider the Steam Deck. I would genuinely consider one of these things. It's genuinely very well suited to just being a budget gaming PC. And if you've already got a gaming PC and you want something where you can play all your games portably, this is one of your best options. And just finally, just a final little thing. You may think this thing is uncomfortable to hold, and I will say it's a bit heavy, but in terms of comfortability, this thing is actually really comfortable. The Steam Deck does kind of melt into your hands. It just feels right. The fact that it's so large actually kind of helps it, in my opinion. It gives it a bit of weight, it gives it some depth that makes it feel a lot meatier, and it's a lot easier to hold rather than something like the Switch, or especially something like the Switch Lite, as which a lot of people have even complained on just the normal Switch, not even the Lite, about the Joy-Cons being really small. This thing does not have that problem. The Steam Deck does not nearly have any sort of problem with its controllers being too small, or its controller setup being very small. It is very much suited to pretty much any hand size, and if you have much larger hands, I think even you'll be able to find this as a very comfortable gaming experience. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So, what's the final verdict? Well, the Steam Deck is honestly one of the most useful devices that I own. This thing can play any game from any console ever, pretty much, apart from I think a PS5, and even then, I think if you tried hard enough, you could probably get a PS5 game running on it. Now, would it run well? Probably not, but you still could probably try. Its price point is pricey for a handheld, but when you think about everything it can do, and the fact that it acts pretty much as a normal gaming PC, just slightly less powerful, it's not that bad of a choice for a budget gaming PC, especially if you really want or need some sort of game PC and you, again, really don't have the money to spend. I'd take, at the very least, I'd take a little look at it and maybe give it a bit of thought. Anyways, that's pretty much the whole video. Yeah, so final thoughts? Yeah, Steam Deck's pretty damn useful.